What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Red and Bold Show. We're excited on this holiday weekend to talk some 49ers football as we look forward to the 49ers playing the Chicago Bears, hosting the Chicago Bears Sunday night at Levi's Stadium. I am your host, Marc Adams. You can find me at 49ers Camelot. You can also find where I write at 49erswebzone.com. Go check that out. You can go there. You can find the staff page and then find my picture. If it doesn't make you throw up, click on it, and it'll give you a list of the articles. But I am joined by an even more important 49ers person, the great Anthony Robertson, who you can find at 49ers Cutback. Ant, how are you doing this post-Christmas weekend?
Yeah, I'm doing great, and your introductions are undefeated at this point. Mark always comes through, and yeah, it's a great time of the year. And me and Mark were kind of talking about our Christmases a little bit before we came on, and it was good. A lot of traveling for me. We went and seen the in-laws, and so that takes a little bit of time, but it was just a good time, and it's easy to have a good time and watch football when you know that your football team that is your favorite is doing so good, and the 49ers are in a prime position, and they've won 5 in a row, and now are looking to take on the Chicago Bears. And this is going to be an interesting matchup. There's a lot of cool storylines that go along with this, and it's ever changing. I mean, just today, there's a chance the Chicago Bears are going to be without their starting right tackle. Darnell Wright is ill and not traveling with the team. So this is it's an ever moving, ever evolving thing, and 49ers have been hit by the injury bug the entire season, and to see it happen to other teams, whether it's flu or whatever it is interesting, and it just makes for good television. Sunday night is going to be great, and depending on how the outcome is, if the 49ers win, the next Sunday night could even be bigger, which is going to be exciting.
Yeah, I saw that Matt Mayoko interviewed Chris Collinsworth, who's one of the ones calling the game Sunday night, and he mentioned that, hey, it's possible that the Seattle 49ers game gets flexed to Sunday night. So he said we may be back again next week. And if the 49ers win that one, then they'll skip a week. But then that divisional playoff game, I think it was the divisional one that he said would be a game that they would be covering potentially. And so they could be back in Santa Clara. And then who knows? They have the Super Bowl, so he talked about that they may be in Santa Clara for 4 more games this season, and wouldn't that be great? We would all love to see that. Thanks to everybody who is watching or listening. Thanks to those that are in the chat so far. We appreciate it. We'll try to get to some of your questions. We're going to try to keep this a little shorter today, but before we talk 49ers Bears, I want to look back real quick to Monday night. Brock Purdy threw 5 touchdown passes against the Colts on Monday night. I was wondering where you rank this among the greatest 49ers quarterback performances. Now, obviously, nothing's going to top Steve Young's 6 touchdown passes in Super Bowl 29, or Joe Montana throwing 5 in Super Bowl 24. I mean, those are just in a class themselves, because not only were they great, but they were in the biggest moments on the biggest stage. But where would you rank this? Obviously, there's that Packers game back in 2012 when Colin Kaepernick rushed for, what was it, 181 yards or something like that. He was just amazing that day. And there's been plenty of other great, when you've got Steve Young, Joe Montana, Jeff Garcia, those guys. Where do you rank that 5 touchdown performance among the best in franchise history?
Well, I think it's tough, if you look at it from a prism of, including playoffs or Super Bowl, this one's going to fall way out. I mean, because there's been so many great performances by quarterbacks, whether it was Jeff Garcia, Steve Young, Joe Montana, all of them just in recent memory did a lot of big things. And so I think in the regular season, it's got to go up there as, one of the better games from a 49ers quarterback, especially since it's been, since 1990, since a 49ers quarterback threw 5 touchdowns in a game during the regular season, and that was Joe Montana. And what an offense that was. back during that season. So this definitely ranks up there as one of the better ones. I think when you look at Brock Purdy, this may have been one of his best games, if not his best game that he's ever had. I think when it comes to clutch things, I look at that Detroit NFC Championship game, and I thought that he used his legs and did so much in that game. He had that clutch gene that I still put that one above this one because it had so much more meaning when you include the playoffs. But yeah, it was a really good performance. Brock Purdy is the best version that we've seen of him. He's doing everything that he needs to do, and he's doing it the right way, taking what's there from a defensive standpoint. They give him something, he takes it. He's putting the ball in proper spots to allow his receivers to make plays. And when something's not there, he's going ahead and he's running, or he's throwing the football away. He is a complete quarterback right now, a guy that can operate this offense the way Kyle Shanahan wants it, and when things go wrong, can operate it outside of the framework of the offense too. That's exactly what you need from number 13. I thought it was a brilliant performance, and he's peaking at the right time. This is exactly when you want to hit full stride, and I feel like he is.
Yeah, and he definitely looks like he's healthy. Kyle Shanahan was, as Brock Purdy said, in his bag. I think that was Purdy that said that.
Yep.
And so, yeah, great game all around by the offense. The defense, not as much. We'll get to them. One thing that surprised me, though, that Christian McCaffrey rushed for over 100 yards against maybe the best run defense in the league. Did that surprise you that he was able to do that?
Yeah, it did. I did think that this was going to be a game the 49ers focused on the run, but that Indianapolis Colts run defense was really good. They were allowing, one of the top 2 in the NFL as far as yards per carry. And then he comes in, and at one point, I mean, he was just reeling off 6-7 yards per carry. It was a very good performance from the 49ers offensive line and for their run game overall. I thought it was clean. George Kittle, Luke Farrell, Kyle Juszczyk, the way that they were blocking on the edge or even coming back with some of their traps and things that they were doing. It was a great game plan from Chris Foerster and the run game coordinator and Kyle Shanahan. I thought they had a really good feel for what Anarumo's defense was going to do. And then Christian McCaffrey just looked very good, very comfortable, very patient, yet explosive when he needed to be. Yeah, it looked good. I thought we were probably going to get 3.5 yards per carry. That's what I was kind of leaning towards with a lot of volume and Brock Purdy converting on third down. Instead, what we got was well over 5 and, him playing so well. So phenomenal game for the run game for the 49ers.
Yeah. Here's a super chat here, $2 from Cam's Dad 1. Thank you for that. Here's the question. And I'm not exactly sure what he's asking here. Niners stop between tackle run, the Chicago run out. Okay, I think I think maybe he's asking, are they going to run outside more against the Bears? You can correct me if I'm wrong on that, but is that kind of what you're deciphering here?
Yeah, I don't know for sure. Cam, go ahead and clarify if you want. You don't have to super chat. Just clarify in the comment section. We'll try to get it. But I think when you look at the Bears defense, it's not a defense that's great at stopping the run. They give up 131 yards per game on the ground. Now, this is one of the things that's been interesting about the conversation about the 49ers rush defense is there's a lot of criticism on the 49ers defense, and rightly so. But when you look at some of the numbers of the Chicago Bears, it's not like they've been great in a lot of categories either. 49ers give up 103 yards per game. They give up about 4.2 yards per carry, which is top 15 in the league. Chicago, though, 131 yards per game. So there is an opportunity to run the football on the Chicago Bears. What the Bears do well is they take the football away. And Cam did clarify. So I want to see this. He said, are the Bears good at running at us on the outside? Will we stop the inside run? So that's what he wants to know.
Defense. Okay.
Yeah, he's talking defense. So thanks so much, Cam, for the super chat, number one. Number two, thanks so much for clarifying. I think that when you look at what the Bears do, they're going to figure out how to run the ball on the 49ers. And I do think they're going to put pressure on the 49ers in both categories because they have a extremely good offensive line. And the offensive line is a little beat up right now. I brought up Darnell Wright earlier. What does that mean? Ozzie Trapillo, is he going to start, the rookie out of Boston College? There's a chance there, but they're still extremely talented. They spent a lot of money, and on Dahlman. They traded for Thuney. They've got talent on the inside. So I think that they're going to try to run the ball right at the 49ers. that is the kind of the way you handle 49ers defense, is take advantage of those defensive tackles, duo block, get some movement, work the second level. I expect to see DeAndre Swift and Kyle Monungai to get carries in the middle. And then I think they'll mix in some plays on the edge, because the read option is going to be a problem this week as well. They've got to account for Caleb Williams. So expect outside zone to be a part of the game plan as well. I think it's all of it. Ben Johnson, he knows how to attack a 49ers defense. If we remember the NFC Championship game a couple years ago, it was getting receivers and running backs on the edge, but they also hit the 49ers in the middle. I expect all of it against the 49ers defense this week.
Yeah, there's a Bears fan here in the chat, said good luck tomorrow, should be a good game. Also said that the Bears are the best rushing team in the conference by a mile, but easily you'll have no issues running inside on us. So, they have a good defense. They take the ball away very well at a high level. Their offense scares me though, because they're really good. I mean, Caleb Williams, great quarterback. He's really coming into his own this season. So it's going to be a great matchup, and excited to see what happens there. Before we talk any more Bears, I wanted to get your thoughts on this particular play that Kyle Shanahan seems to run a lot. In the 2022 NFC Championship, Brock Purdy was injured when a tight end failed. I think was it Tyler Kroft? Is that who it was?
Yeah.
I missed a block on the edge rusher. Was that Hassan Reddick? I think is who that was.
It was.
He hit Purdy in the arm, ruptured his UCL joint. Just a terrible thing, because from that point, the 49ers had to play with no quarterback, because then Josh Johnson got hurt. And so that was just a wasted game. Well, on Monday night, Luke Farrell did the exact same thing, only the ball popped up in the air and he caught it and gained a couple of yards, which I think maybe Luke Farrell did it on purpose just to get himself a catch, but I doubt it. I'm kidding, of course. But here's the interesting thing. In 2022, after this happened, this was when I first started doing my show, and I had John Chapman on. He was my very first guest, and I asked him, how much do you hate that play where a backup tight end fails to block? At that time, the guy who was one of the top, maybe even he may have even led the league in sacks that year. And John said it's a very normal thing. It happens all over the NFL. And so he wasn't critical of Shanahan for that play. He said that not only did the tight end miss the block, but then I think Mike McGlinchey, who was on at right tackle, missed his block, which allowed more pressure, which made it even worse. I want to get your thoughts on it, because that play was strikingly similar to the play on which Purdy was injured. Are you like John? You're okay with that play, or are you like, man, something's got to change, because we can't have Brock Purdy getting hurt again?
Yeah, I mean, this particular play, the reason that Luke Farrell is stuck out there one-on-one with a good edge rusher in Latu is because the Indianapolis Colts sent a blitz to the inside. And so what happened was Farrell was supposed to be there for help. They were going to give help on Latu and help out Colt McKivitz, and then he was going to release. What happened is because there was a blitz on the inside, Colt McKivitz had to move inside. And when that happens, then it becomes Luke Farrell's job to hold on to Latu. And then what you're hoping is Brock Purdy sees there's a blitz, and then he gets rid of the football quickly. You get rid of the ball in time. And so in this particular situation, that's why you got Farrell one-on-one. It isn't out of the ordinary, though, to put a tight end out there with a defensive end, especially if they're going to be in a wide alignment. If you can get them into a wide alignment, and then that tight end can kind of run them upfield a little bit, you're getting rid of the ball quickly, usually in those type of plays. And so you're just looking for an opportunity for Brock Purdy to get rid of the ball, and it usually works out. Now, Hassan Reddick is a special case. He's super fast, super athletic, so he can bend a corner like nobody else. And so you had a big-time play there. This play felt similar, because you did see Brock Purdy take a hit from the same side and the ball kind of come loose. The good news is Brock was further into his motion this time, and so everything ended up being okay. But that is why these things happen. You're trying to give help, and then they bring a blitz, and you've got to adjust. Inside man is always more dangerous when it comes to blocking. You're going to take inside first. You're going to let a guy come from the outside because they're further away from the quarterback. That's why it's the rule. But yeah, it did feel bad. It did feel like it could have been a huge play in the game. Luckily, everything works out, and you don't normally want to put tight end one-on-one, but at times in certain plays you do it because you know you can get rid of the football in time.
Yeah, and I do remember that being the case in that situation in 2022 in that NFC Championship game, that Purdy had Brandon Ayuk open for what would have been at least a really big gain, maybe even a touchdown, but he hesitated. And so if he doesn't hesitate in that situation, then he probably never gets hurt. Things totally could be different. And so that kind of goes along with what you're saying about him recognizing that and getting rid of the ball quicker. As we think about the defense, we went into the game against the Colts, and I remember telling you with these last 3 games that I wasn't super concerned about the quarterbacks that they would be facing, although Caleb Williams does scare me because he's very talented. I mean, just that walk-off play alone against the Packers is enough to scare me. But I was more concerned about the run game. Now, the 49ers defense did a really good job shutting down Jonathan Taylor. I don't know if they can do the same thing to the Bears defense, or to the Bears running game. So can the 49ers move through these games, get the number 1 overall seed, make a splash in the postseason if they can't stop the run, or just maybe they sell out to stop the run and get picked apart? I mean, Phillip Rivers, 44 years old or something like that. And he was dicing them up for that. Well, throughout the first half. Then Robert Saleh made some adjustments. But are you as concerned about this defense as I am, or am I just being like overly concerned and Chicken Little here?
I think that there is reason for concern. I mean, they got a lot of players back, which I think was significant in helping slow down the running game. But they also were focused on stopping the running game against the Indianapolis Colts, and they're going to have to do the same thing against Chicago. The difference is Phillip Rivers, though he is a master when it comes to the mental part of this game, which is an advantage over Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams has athleticism, the arm strength. The guy can escape pressure. There's a lot of things that he does. I think the biggest fear for me in this game is the fact that you have to account for him in the running game. And you didn't have to do that last week against Phillip Rivers. That cut down the number of gaps that you were responsible for. It made it a little bit easier not having to account for him in any sort of a read option or anything like that. So your defensive end was able to come down the line of scrimmage and give help. Your linebackers were able to fly up and make plays because they're not worried about Phillip Rivers pulling and running. So that's going to be one of the significant differences in this game, and that's going to create some avenues for Swift and Monangai to put their foot in the ground and get downhill in some of these, outside zone type runs and zone runs. So I do think that it's going to be more complicated this week. I do believe that Tatum Bethune is going to make a big difference in helping stop the run. And I think that the safety play last week was better. Malik Mustafa was better coming up and making tackles. He has to continue that because Swift and Monangai are not exactly easy guys to tackle either. But do I think they're going to do as good as they did against the Colts and Jonathan Taylor stopping the run? No. But do I think that they could possibly hold the Chicago Bears to 115 yards instead of allowing this Bears rushing attack to go 150 plus? Yes, I do. But it's going to be all attention on deck. They have to force Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams to beat them on third downs and with third and longs. You look at the Bears team, that there's one area that they're not superb in on offense. It is third down conversions. They convert about 42% of the time, which is in a good category. It's not bad. It's good, but it's still a weakness compared to some of the other teams in the league. And that's what you got to do. Get them to third down, get Caleb Williams moving outside the pocket and see if you can't get an errant throw and then get off the field. That's going to be one of the keys in this game, but it starts with stopping the run on first and second down, and that's going to be tough.
And it's also going to be tough getting to Joe Carmack's question here. Uh, they're going to be playing again without Renardo Green. And so the question that Joe asked, does anyone know how serious Renardo Green's injury is? I'll ask you that. And I'll also ask you, how concerned are you with Green missing another game? Because that means that Darrell Luter Jr. is going to be playing. Now the Bears are going to be missing one of their top receivers, but man, I don't like Renardo Green missing another game.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like Renardo Green missing either. I think this could be, something that gives the 49ers some problems when it comes to coverage. I don't think it's going to be a problem when it comes to stopping the run. I think Darrell Luter Jr. is actually better at coming up and playing the run right now than Renardo Green, and maybe that's because he has the neck issue. Now, I don't think it's extremely significant because he has been practicing, but I think they're a little leery of him having contact, and I think they're trying to get him right going into the playoffs to make sure he's 100%. Maybe that's why he's been a little less active coming up, being a force defender and making plays. This week, you've got to have that. So it's going to be an interesting, game to see what Darrell Luter Jr. does. I worry about his matchups against like DJ Moore, what that looks like. But I think that you look at some of the other matchups, Luther Burden, he should be able to stick with him. Burden's more of a yak guy. If he gets the ball in his hands, look out. Zacchaeus has got a lot of speed and he can push things vertical, but I don't think he's going to line up on the outside a ton against Darrell Luter Jr. So I don't think the matchups are terrible for Luter Jr. on the outside. I thought his coverage last week was actually pretty decent on Alec Pierce. But I do think that this will help in the run defense, which we just talked about. The 49ers need to focus on. And hopefully when Renardo Green does come back, he's more, ready to come up and play the run, because they definitely need him to play the run and play good in coverage.
Last week, you predicted that Kyle Shanahan would expose the Colts linebackers. I think you mentioned specifically George Kittle and Christian McCaffrey. He did just that, what you said was going to happen. Can he do that against the Bears, especially if George Kittle is not playing?
I think it becomes a little bit more difficult if George Kittle's not playing. George Kittle and Christian McCaffrey playing together is one of the things that really opens up this offense, because defensive coordinators can take away one, right? They can bracket one of those guys and take them away, and you've got to kind of pick which one they're going to do it to. Or in some cases, if you know what's coming defensively, you can force them to take away one player. I think it's difficult if you don't have the threat of George Kittle for Christian McCaffrey, because I do think the linebackers for the Bears are probably the best matchup that I've seen against Christian McCaffrey in a while. Like every week I normally go into like McCaffrey, Kittle, they're going to win this matchup. I think when you look at Edmonds and you look at Edwards, I think this is a good matchup where the Bears feel like, hey, we can hang with Christian McCaffrey sometimes. So I don't know what the focus is from Dennis Allen on what he's going to do to kind of take McCaffrey away. But what I think it does is it opens things up if George Kittle doesn't play for Jake Tonjes, because I do think Jake Tonjes has got sneaky skills at playing receiver. And I think he's got a lot more ability than probably teams really see. He's a red zone threat. So I think this could be a situation where they focus on McCaffrey early and Jake Tonjes starts making some plays, because I still believe he's a mismatch for some teams. So it's not going to be to the level of George Kittle. And of course, we're also hoping that George Kittle is going to be able to go in this game. Game time decision is what they've been saying. But I do think it gets harder for McCaffrey. Now, what will help this football team a lot is we talked about the run game earlier. If the 49ers can get a successful running game going against the Bears, and all of a sudden the Bears have to commit a little bit more to stopping that run, those linebackers take a step forward, that will open up some things over the middle of the field, and maybe a guy like Ricky Pearsall and Juwan Jennings can make some extra plays. And if that happens, then all of a sudden it might open some things up for Christian McCaffrey again. But George Kittle and Christian McCaffrey are a tandem. They're a tag team. We need them both out there together. That's what puts a lot of pressure on defenses.
If there's no George Kittle, how important is it going to be to have Ricky Pearsall back?
Extremely important, because he can at least threaten teams in the intermediate portion of the field. So George Kittle made a living last week getting up the seam. And I still think you could do that with Jake Tonjes, but what you got to get is one of those guys to get kind of in that seam from a different position. And you can get Ricky Pearsall, that Z receiver, up that seam. But it gives another option to where at least defenses have to take into consideration the guys on the outside. Now, the Chicago Bears have gotten better and better in the secondary over the last several weeks. CJ Gardner-Johnson has helped out a lot since he came into town. They still have Jalen Johnson, who is really good. So they've got guys who can hang one-on-one on the outside, but I think it gives them another weapon. And as long as you can consistently put out 3 guys that are at least dangerous, and I think Pearsall's in that category, and if Dennis Allen doesn't want to treat Ricky Pearsall like he's dangerous, he's going to make a couple extra plays, and then they'll kind of change their thought process. So it is important, and I think it's really important, too, in the red zone, because Kittle, Christian McCaffrey, and Juwan Jennings have been ruthless in the red zone. Those guys are so good, and if you're missing one of those, it gets a little bit more complicated. They can kind of take away McCaffrey and take away Jennings and make someone else win. You need someone that can win, and Pearsall's proven that he can win on one-on-one coverage, so that's going to be significant.
Yeah, huge difference is that Juwan Jennings, while he's been dominant in the red zone, Ricky Pearsall still doesn't have a touchdown on the season. So if there's no George Kittle, Pearsall, if he plays, is going to have to step up in a major way. What is when we talk 49ers, because you already kind of mentioned what your biggest concern was in facing the Bears offense. What is your biggest concern in facing the Bears defense? Now, this isn't the one with Singletary and Richard Dent and all those guys, but I think that this defense is pretty good.
They are the most opportunistic defense in the NFL. If you put a ball in harm's way, they're going to come up with it. They have 31 turnovers this year that they've been able to generate. That's an impressive number. It's just they are really good at taking the ball away. So you have to be extra good at taking care of the football. And so I think that's the thing that I worry the most about, that the ball is going to end up in the Bears' hands. Because if you look at the Bears' defense, they really do count on those turnovers. If they don't get those turnovers, you can move the ball and you can score on this defense. But if you don't take care of the football, that's a sudden change. And then that's when the Bears' offense takes advantage of it. So I think turnovers are the biggest thing I'm looking at. The second thing is, how good are the Bears actually inside the red zone on defense? Last week, they held the Green Bay Packers to 0-5 inside the red zone. Is that who the Bears are? I do think that they're a good red zone defense, but are they that good? That's going to be the question. 49ers, one of the best red zone offenses in the league. Can they go score consistently? Because if the 49ers offense goes 0-5 in the red zone, Chicago Bears are going to win the game. That's just the way it is. And if you're going to turn over the football against the Bears, they're going to win the game. You can't have turnovers, and you can't be unsuccessful in the red zone. If you win in both of those areas, I think you have a really good shot of walking out of Sunday Night Football with a win.
We've talked about the fact that it's been widely discussed, not just us, but if the 49ers win their final 2 games, they will get home field advantage throughout the NFC playoffs. If they're going to lose one of the final 2, which of the 2 do you think it would be? Last week I said I thought it would be the Seattle game. I don't think that you agreed with that. So are you saying that if they lose one of these, it's going to be against the Bears?
I think with everything the way it is, I still believe that the Seattle game is one of the most toughest situations, but I love the quarterback of Brock Purdy versus Sam Darnold. I think what makes this one so interesting and why this could be a very tough one is the defense's strengths when it comes to turnovers, but also the fact that for whatever reason, the Chicago Bears win a lot of one-score games. They find a way to win. It doesn't always make sense, but they find ways to win. Look at last week against Green Bay. They end up getting an onside kick, getting the ball back, forcing overtime, and then going out there and winning in overtime after getting a turnover on 4th down. They just have found ways to win all year. And there's something about teams like that make it difficult. They're not going to be an easy out. Even though they're coming to Santa Clara at Sunday night, the 49ers are going to have to play their best football to beat Chicago. But I do think that Chicago and Seattle are both going to be tough. I don't think either one of these are easy, and the 49ers are going to have to execute at the top of their game to be able to win both. This one creates a little bit more interesting dynamics for the 49ers defense, too. When you talk about Caleb Williams being able to scramble, generate outside the pocket, that's never usually good for 49ers teams. And then you throw in the fact that they've got a really successful running game, which you look at the 49ers rush defense, that is one of the weaknesses. I think matchup wise, it makes it a little bit difficult. So this is going to be tough, but I think they're both going to be tough.
All right, let me get to a couple of questions here before we finish out. Lou in the chat says, will wide receiver JM see the field today on the outside? Who's that? Who's JM?
I believe he's talking about the
Jordan
rookie
Watkins?
wide receiver, Jordan Watkins.
Jordan Watkins,
I think.
yeah. Yeah, Lou, is that who you're talking about, Jordan Watkins? You can let us know if that's who you're talking about. Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't think so. Especially with Ricky Pearsall coming back, I don't expect Jordan Watkins to be in uniform for this game. I don't. I think they're going to have the other guys ready to go, and then we know that if George Kittle's not capable of playing, it's going to be Braden Willis coming up, being elevated from the practice squad. They'll probably have him available just in case. But no, I don't think Jordan Watkins is going to be playing on the outside. It's going to be Juwan Jennings. It's going to be Ricky Pearsall. And then it's going to be your normal guys, Kendrick Bourne and Demarcus Robinson. The 49ers feel comfortable with who they got. I think Watkins is probably going to be next year at some point. We'll see what he can do, and hopefully he can help this team next year. But I don't think it's going to be this year.
Yeah, I agree. Unless there's an injury, if Ricky Pearsall doesn't play, then I think Watkins will suit up. He'll see the field like he did Monday night, but so far he just hasn't really had many balls thrown his way. I mean, a few here and there, but I agree. He's most likely going to be counted on next year. Cam's dad asked, will Sala use big nickel? He wrote bug nickel. I think that's supposed to be big nickel. Use big nickel more. Who's the linebacker?
Yeah, I think this is an interesting matchup issue in this game when you look at how Chicago can run 12 personnel, right? They got Cole Kmet, they got Colson Loveland, and Colson Loveland has been one of the guys that's made a lot of plays as a young player, and this creates some matchup issues. And so I look at this matchup for the 49ers defense, and this is part of the reason you went and got an Eric Kendricks. It's to see if you could match up a little bit on teams that run 12 and 13 personnel. However, with how good Colson Loveland is catching the ball, it might be a good week to go with the big nickel and put Jason Pinnock out there and see how he can handle it, because he has played nickel corner in this league, and Colson Loveland's not an easy matchup. I wonder if they let Upton Stout battle with him a little bit. I thought Upton Stout played really well last week, but I do expect the 49ers to go to some big nickel looks against that 12 personnel. They'll probably play it on down and distance and try to guess what Ben Johnson's doing and whether he's trying to run the ball or pass the ball. But yeah, that's one of those key matchups. And I think it's going to be one 49ers have to deal with all year, is how to handle 12 and 13 personnel.
That's going to be an interesting matchup. The Bears' great run game against the 49ers' weakness on defense, and really the weakness on the whole team. But that's going to be an interesting one to see. Anything else that you want to add or bring up before we take off?
Yeah, let me say this, Cam's dad. Yes, Watkins did play last week, barely played. What we're saying is he's not playing unless there's an injury. So we do know that he played last week, but he's not going to see the field again unless there's an injury to one of those big guys. I will say this about this game. This is going to be one of those games that I thought probably last week where you just got to stick with the run, right? You got to stick with it. You've got to make sure Christian McCaffrey is able to get out there and run the ball consistently. That's what's going to open the things up. If the 49ers can get a consistent running game going against the Chicago Bears defense, which is not crazy to believe when you look at what the Bears have done defensively against the ground game, that will open up the middle of the field where they'll be able to take some of those intermediate shots to Juwan Jennings and Ricky Pearsall and kind of set up this 49ers passing game. And I think it also generates some great opportunities when it comes to play action for Brock Purdy to get outside the pocket and to be able to find his receivers in open space. This has been a recipe for success. And as much as I like the Chicago Bears defense, they haven't been great at rushing the passer this year either. Besides Montez Sweat, it's been hit and miss. That's why they made a move to go get Joe Tryon-Sharenka. They've tried a lot of things. So I think that the 49ers are going to have some opportunities to move the football against the Chicago Bears. It's going to be one of those keys. Which defense can make the most plays? And for the 49ers, are you going to be opportunistic on defense this time? Is Jair Brown and Malik Mustafa going to make the plays and get the turnovers that they need to make. If they do that, they will be in this game. And I think that that's going to be one of the fun parts is, hey, who takes care of the ball? Who wins time of possession? Wins on third down? Wins in the red zone? That's who's going to win. 49ers have been more consistent in those areas, but the Chicago Bears got the great neutralizer that is creating turnovers.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun game. I live in the Chicago area, so I can tell you that that the city is excited about the Bears, and don't know where they're going to play down the road with the whole stadium situation, but this team's I mean, this is completely different than last year when they were blowing games that they should have won. This year they're finishing, and we can say the same thing about the 49ers. Last year they let a lot of games get by that they should have won. This year they're finishing those games. So two teams that have stepped up this year, and it's going to be a really good one on Sunday night. Thanks everybody for joining us. If you wouldn't mind, take a minute and like this video. That really helps us out a lot. And then if you can go to 49ers Camelot and 49ers Cutback and give us both a follow, we would appreciate that. We're actually going to be back here on Wednesday morning, 11 o'clock Pacific time. So Wednesday, that's the 31st. So before you do all your New Year's stuff, come talk some 49ers with us. Thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of your weekend. And to all of the Bears fans in the chat, go Niners.